U.S. prosecutors pressing charges against Chinese telecom giant Huawei, alleging the company did business with Iran and North Korea to skirt sanctions. NBC News correspondent for investigations Tom Winter joins us now. Tom, your piece comes on the heels of this superseding indictment, and something that's alleged here is that Huawei set up a shell company in Iran. Walk us through what's being alleged here in this new revised document.
Right. So the key details here today is this company called Skycom essentially had made representations to the U.S. government and to U.S. financial institutions that this was somehow no longer a company that was associated with Huawei, that it had been sold. It was a third party. And while, yes, they were doing business in Iran and they were doing business with Huawei, it was more of a partnership than it was a direct subsidiary. And in fact, that's not true at all, according to this indictment and according to the allegations today. And by setting up this company, they essentially allowed that company to purchase U.S. goods, U.S. products, even to employ at least one U.S. citizen, according to the indictment, something that's illegal. Today, prosecutors are also adding the new detail that back in 2009, you remember the protests that were going on in Tehran, significant protests, violent protests that occurred there, that Huawei was helping the Iranian government, according to these allegations, to spy on those protesters, to identify who they were, and to provide that information, obviously through electronic and telephone networks, to the Iranian government.
Huawei has a big PR arm. They've been trying to get into the U.S. market, but they have a global PR apparatus. What have they said in response to what was unveiled in Brooklyn today?
I mean, and we can show you the full statement. Basically, this was a full-throated denial of these allegations today. They say that the Justice Department is trying to harm Huawei's reputation, and that basically, look, these were legitimate businesses that we were doing. How could we be involved in racketeering? One of the big questions that came out of this today is the theft of trade secrets, David. And that's something that the U.S. government is taking very seriously, and that's something that they've really gone after Huawei in the new charges.
And certainly have seen in these other situations recently with Harvard's chemistry department, this new focus from the State Department and other agencies on intellectual property theft. What of the timing here? As I say, it's a superseding indictment. This has been in the works here for a while. Should we make anything of when this was released today?
I think to piggyback off of something you just said, the U.S. government, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and other U.S. intelligence agencies are keenly aware that China is conducting an incredible operation, ongoing operation, and has been for the better part of at least a decade of taking U.S. intellectual property and trade secrets. I've had the opportunity to review an FBI memorandum on this topic where U.S. companies are now essentially saying, look, we bring a new product to market. We know that if there's a manufacturing component that is occurring in China, or just that it's something, a technology that the Chinese would like, that we have maybe 3 to 4 quarters before we lose that product, we lose that competitive advantage. That's something that's really scary for U.S. businesses and for the U.S. government to see this real brain drain, essentially, not literally, not people moving to China, but U.S. ideas, U.S. research, all going to China. It's something that is of tremendous concern to the U.S. government. That was part of the new charges today. As you mentioned, we've seen a real focus on that over the last couple of months, very public pronouncements in naming and shaming, if you will, by the Justice Department.
What does this mean for the relationship between the U.S. and Huawei? And I say relationship not with any positive connotation. This has been adversarial and difficult for a very long time here, especially since what we've seen with the 5G networks in the U.K. and Europe. How does it change the relationship between these two entities?
I think it just continues to show the contrast that the U.S. government has and Huawei has. Huawei here is saying, look, we're getting unfairly painted and targeted. The U.S. government is saying, look, we have direct evidence. We have lawsuits involving U.S. companies, 6 U.S. companies, going back to 2000, approximately 2000, say that their information, their technology has been stolen. And one of the things that the U.S. government is being very clear now in is not just saying, well, they did some stuff with Iran, or they had a subsidiary in Iran. That was in the initial indictment. In this superseding indictment today, we get the new details about what was going on with the protests in 2009. We get new details about how they were changing or making sure that their logos weren't being put on products that were going to North Korea. It's that level of detail where the U.S. government is saying, hey, we're not just going to be coy here and say, well, they do some business with North Korea and Iran, and that's bad, and we don't like it. No, they're going to be very specific about these examples. They cited specific examples, even though they didn't name the companies. They cited very specific examples where their information was taken from. 3 new counts in total, a 16-count indictment that they now have against them. It's not insignificant, and they're making it very clear to the rest of the world exactly what the U.S. government thinks of it, and exactly maybe what the U.S. government will think of you in another country if you do business with Huawei.
A lot of new detail today. Tom Winter, thank you very much, as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.